Welcome back to Pro School. Today we are going to take a look at orders and how to create order templates in ProLine to make the process of generating and sending both work orders, material orders, and any other kind of order that you want to send as easy as possible. And so the functionality that we're going to be looking at is we have this signed quote here. We're ready to move forward with the job. The job we've gotten it scheduled on the calendar. And so we want to send that order off to our subcontractor or our crew, depending on how you're structured for example, the work order. I can select this work order template here, hit create. And then ProLine is going to take the selected option and upgrades that were from that signed quote and put it on my work order. Now we can look here, there's nothing underneath lifetime pipe boots and seamless gutters, but there is this underneath the Atlas Pinnacle Pristine. So the reason that there is nothing underneath here is because these items on the original quote didn't have any labor line items. And this template was set up for the work order to only pull in labor line items. And the only one that had a labor line item was this here. Now, if you actually did need to pay extra for lifetime pipe boots or adding the seamless gutters, or however you are charging for that, or how your subs are charging for that, then you would just need to make sure you have labor line items on these. You can set a target date and time and then add notes as well. And then we can hit send. ProLine is going to generate a text and an email based on that information. We can customize these if we want before we send them, and then we can shoot them off to our sub. Same thing with the material order, except unlike with the work order, the material order is set up to not show pricing because you don't want to send pricing to your distributor, because this is going to get sent to your distributor, to your rep with your supplier. So you just are sending the quantities. And so this is all customizable through the templates, how you want to set these up. And yeah, so that's what I'm about to show you how to do. So let's go over to company settings. We're going to go to orders, and then we have order templates. Now, just like with our quotes, we can actually have different order templates for different locations if we want to do that, or we can just stick to the company defaults here. And so we have work order, material order. These are two templates that have been created. These are not hard-coded into ProLine in any way. You can customize these at any time. And so let's go in, let's look at the work order. And of course, these are the typical two that everybody needs to have, is a work order and material order. But something really common is if you maybe have two different sub crews, you might want to have a work order for sub 1 and then a work order template for sub 2. And we'll get into why you might want to do that. But additionally, maybe you have other types of orders. Maybe you want to have a separate type of order that's specifically for gutters, for example. And so you have like gutters, work order. There's all kinds of situations where you might want to create different types of orders, but these are the basic generic two. Let's look at this work order template right here. So if we go in here, we can change the template name here, and then we have the order name. This is the name that's going to get applied to the order itself. This is not customer facing in this point in this context, but it will be facing to whoever you are sending the order to. And so that's a little bit different than the template name. Then you have the contact. This is really important, and it gets a little bit confusing, but the contact is who you're going to send this order to, which means that contact is going to be your representative with your supplier or your sub crew or your crew leader. That's who's going to be put in here. So you're going to need to add them as a contact in ProLine first. That way you can select them here on the template. Now, when you're actually sending the order, you can change who it's sending to. This just sets who's going to be the default. And so it just saves you time without having to go search for that contact. It's already in here and ready to go when you create orders with this template. You can also set default notes. So you can just say, this is a note. So you can set these default notes that are going to get put into the order as well. Cost visibility. So this is where we tell ProLine, do we want to show line item costs? do we want to show the group cost totals? The group is what is either an upgrade or an option from the quote. That's what we call them, groups with the orders. Do we want to show on the work order how much the total that we charge the customer for the roof? Probably not, right? What we do want to do is we want to show, in most cases, it depends on your relationship with your crew, but you probably do want to show how much the crew is going to get paid for this work order. What was the labor component that you're charging the customer and passing along to them. And so we're going to leave show line item costs selected. We're going to not show them the total cost of the option, the roof, or any add-ons. And we're not going to show them the total for the entirety of the project. So we're going to leave off those totals, but we are going to show that line item cost. Then we have quote conversion settings. These are the rules that ProLine follows when converting a signed quote into an order. And so we are going to convert the selected option and convert the selected upgrade. So if we have the options like good, better, best roof options, right? That's the selected option, whichever one was selected when the quote was signed. And then we have upgrades like lifetime pipe boots, gutters, any other upgrade options that you want to put on a quote. If any of those are selected, you can work into this order template whether or not you want those to be converted onto the order as groups. Then we have line item inclusion. Do we want to, in these groups that are being created from the option and upgrades, do we want to include only labor or only materials or both? We have that control here. So in this context, we want to convert everything because we want to let the crew know everything that they're going to be installing. But we're only going to include the labor component because we don't need to tell them everything else. Now, you might have a different relationship with your crew. Maybe you do want to show them all the different materials that they're expected to have on site. Just there is some caveats here, like you're not going to be able to hide. Like you have the option to hide or show line item costs. If you're going to include all the material items when sending it to your subs, then you're also going to have to expose how much what was the cost of those materials. Maybe you don't care, maybe that's fine, but just something to keep in mind. Lastly, we have send actions, which at this point is just the stage that you want ProLine to move the project to when the order is sent. And so for a work order, maybe you have a stage that's work order sent or something like that. You don't have to select anything here. You can just leave it blank and it'll say don't move stage, but you have that option to create to select a stage that you want ProLine to move the project to. All right, so we have that. Let's take a look at the material order here. So we have material orders. For material orders, we're going to select something different. We're going to select materials. We don't need to send labor line items to our supplier, right? So we won't select that. We will select materials. We're going to convert selected option and selected upgrades. And then we can have a different contact here if we want. Maybe instead of having our sub crew leader, we have our rep with our supplier, and we're going to add them as a contact in ProLine. Then we're going to select them here, and that way it just saves us that time having to do that when we're getting ready to send this order. Same thing here, cost visibility, material order. Probably don't need to show any of those costs to your supplier. Maybe you do, just so that this is what we based our costs off of. I don't know. I don't think the supplier is probably going to budge on what their price is if it's different, but it's up to you. You can show it if you want, but in most cases for material order, you're not going to show your cost structure to your supplier. All right, so we have this, and then same thing with send actions. We can select a stage to move to. And so looking at keeping all that in mind, let's go back and look at these orders. So we can, and we'll kind of do this from the beginning. So we have this roof replacement. It's going to generate the quote real quick. We have this roof replacement quote here. We have good, better, best options. We have lifetime pipe boots and 6-inch seamless gutters as upgrades here. And these just have these material line items underneath them, no labor. All right, so we have our quote here that's ready to sign, has these options on it. We'll just sign this real quick. Okay, so sign quote is processing. And so we'll head back over into orders, select, oh, these are both signed today. Let me delete this other one so it's not confusing. I always like to have a draft in here. Okay, so we're going to select that signed quote. We're going to go to work order, and we're going to create that work order. And just like before, so it's going to pull in, these are groups on the order, but they're made up of options and upgrades. And so we have our labor component here. There was no labor line item on these upgrades, so there nothing got pulled onto the order. We can select a target date and time if we want for this order. Select, we want November 22nd at 10 a.m. is when we want the work to present or to start, or we can just select any time. We have those notes that came in from the template. This is a note. So good to go. And then we can select to send. Again, ProLine is going to generate a text and an email here. And so you can see here, it does look a little weird without any kind of line items underneath them, but we have each group is given this sort of section here, and then underneath is any line items. And so we can see that labor component of the better option here, and then these don't have anything underneath them, so it's just the names listed out. So that's the way that looks at the moment. Same thing with the email. You can do any last second customization here. And like I was showing before, this is that default contact that was selected. You don't have to have that. You can select a different contact if you want to send the work order to a different contact in your ProLine account. You can, but that default on the template just allows you to work a little bit more quickly and not have to select that every time, especially if you're working with a single sub crew or a limited number of sub crews. Just saves you time. So material order, looking at that again. So we can see, based on how that template was set up, it pulls in all the material items here, but not the labor component, and it has all the quantities. The pricing is all hidden, which is the way that template was set up. Same thing, we can have a target date and time if we want to request that those materials get delivered on a specific date. And then we have our notes if we want to add any notes. So that's orders in ProLine. That's how that works. And yeah, thanks for joining today.